Hello guys, it's Ryan Ho back with another video. Today we're going to compare the Audeze Maxwell over here to the Logitech G Pro X2 Lightspeed. So these both are wireless gaming headsets. The Audeze is a planar magnetic headphone that's made by audiophile company Audeze, and the Logitech has the graphene drivers made by obviously the big peripheral company Logitech. So we kind of be comparing these head on and see their features, the sound quality, and see which one's the best for you guys. As always, I'll have links to these products down in the description below. And please like and subscribe down below, helps my videos out. And yeah, let's get this comparison done. All right, so let's compare these two, right? So Logitech has the lighter build. The build quality is really good as well. This is reminiscent of their old build quality, but they have extra kind of swivel as well. Both of these are actually capable of that, so really there's not much difference. They both have all the adjustability that anyone needs. I think the main difference is that I do think the Audeze feels a little bit more premium in the build. It does feel a little sturdier, a little bit better, but in terms of like comfort, it's kind of the Logitech. It's lighter, it's more comfortable. I like the adjustability of this as well. I'm not much of a suspension type of person, but you know, it depends on the person, but I personally like this type of adjustability in my opinion. The pads are better on the Audeze in my opinion. They're just bigger, they're plushier, they're just huge. So I really like the pads on the Audeze for sure, better than the Logitech. And yeah, so that's what I kind of feel about the build. So now let's talk about the features. So we have the microphone, right? The microphone, to me, the mic is noticeably better on the Audeze, as well as the fact that you have the different suppressions. So you have like low and high. So with those two features, the mic is definitely better on the Maxwell. We also have different connectivity. So we have the dongle. The thing about the dongles is that they're both, you know, low latency, but the Audeze supports like higher resolutions through their dongle, so it's better in my opinion. When it comes to Bluetooth, it's kind of similar as well. The Bluetooth is better on the Audeze as well. It supports like LDAC and the high res stuff. So really Logitech isn't really made to be like an audiophile type of experience. It's really made to be a competitive gaming, while the other features are there for convenience. But it's worth noting that the Audeze is better, right? So the other thing is that you can connect these both wired, right? So 3.5 millimeter, but the Logitech has to be turned off versus the Audeze needs to be turned on, which in some ways that's good and bad, right? Like essentially you don't need power to power this, while you always need power to power this headphone. But the Maxwell is able to use its EQ functions while it's in wired mode, so you can actually digitally tune it while using it wired, which is really good. So I feel like that, in my opinion, is a step up over the Logitech, so I really like that. And you get all the great tuning features versus when you use the Logitech wired, it sounds noticeably worse than the wireless mode because it doesn't have any of the digital tuning, so it gets kind of just a normal tuning. It doesn't sound that good in my opinion versus it being on. So in my opinion, the Audeze wins in that sense. And then of course you can talk about the USB-C. So they both have USB-C connection through the bottom, right? However, the USB-C for the Logitech only charges the headset versus for the Audeze, not only does it charge the headset, but you can actually hook it up wired into your PC, and then you can activate all its other modes. So essentially you can get the wired benefits of higher sound quality and low latency versus the Logitech doesn't really give you that option at all. It basically has to be used wireless when you plug it in through USB-C. So of course the Audeze in that sense has more features once again. I think you're probably seeing a pattern by now. But yes, I think when it comes to feature set, the Maxwell definitely triumphs over the Logitech. I didn't even mention the part that you can actually use this with your phone and set different EQ modes, and it'll load all your EQ profiles that you set from your PC or from your phone and save them on the headset and then load them on whatever device you have. So you can use this on other devices versus the Logitech. You basically have to use it with the PC for its software. So yeah, you can kind of see that the Audeze Maxwell is virtually much more versatile than the Logitech. Lastly, when it comes to battery life, the Audeze is rated to be 80 hours. So it's definitely industry leading in my opinion, versus this one is, it's 50 hours, so it's definitely average is good, but I guess the Audeze's last longer. But it's worth noting that it probably has a bigger battery, hence why it is heavier versus the Logitech is much lighter and more comfortable to wear. I do feel a little sore wearing the Maxwell after a while, so I do give that, benefit to the Logitech. Now let's talk about sound because that's everyone's favorite part. So when it comes to sound, I'm sorry to say if you're a Logitech fan, but the sound of Logitech is probably the best sounding Logitech I've ever heard. Even compared to my HyperX Cloud Alpha S, it does sound better than that. So I would say for gaming headphone standards, it's actually pretty good. While the Audeze Maxwell is obviously more of an audiophile headphone, it sounds leagues better than any gaming headphone. And in this case, it also sounds a lot better than the Logitech, in my opinion. Going down low, when it comes to bass, I'm actually surprised at how detailed and punchy these bass is. It does seem a little bit bloated a little bit, in my opinion, on this one. Not too much. Versus the Audeze does sound noticeably cleaner, in my opinion, and it does hit a little bit harder as well. It just has a little bit more of this overall impact and this cleanliness at the same time. So, it does sound more clean to me. Now, when it comes to kind of the mid-range, I do think the Logitech does push the mid-range forward a lot, so you kind of hear a lot of that footsteps a lot during the gaming. That's the thing I noticed the most is like the footsteps stand out the most on this headphone compared to the Audeze, because the Audeze is kind of tuned more balanced, right? You hear all the frequencies, all the sounds at the same time very evenly, versus the Logitech sounds like it pushes the bass and the mids really forward, and then the treble is very lacking or behind, not really emphasized in this headphone, at least the upper treble isn't. So you really hear the footsteps stand out the most. And, I think it's just a subject of its tuning, in my opinion. So when it comes to kind of detecting footsteps, I would say the Logitech makes it more apparent versus the Audeze, you can hear them, but you kind of have to like listen and pick them out yourself because you're hearing everything kind of equally at the same time, if that makes any sense. But when we're talking about like vocals, the male, female vocalists sound pretty good on this headset, but I feel like the upper ranges of the female vocals kind of suffer a lot because of the lack of treble above 8K. That's something I really noticed about this headset. The thing about this headset too is that you can't really kind of tune it and change it because the software only lets you tune the treble up to 6,700. So really, you can't really fix it that much unless you kind of swap it with the cloth pads. And with the cloth pads, it does sound a little bit more trebly, but then the bass doesn't hit as hard. So it's just like a trade-off in my opinion. So overall, the sound really is gonna sound much more complete on the Audeze. For me, when it comes to just natural sound, the Audeze really does that. Male, female vocal sounds really good. The treble sounds way better, way more complete on the Maxwell. You just hear a lot of that detail above 8K, you really just hear that. So when it comes to just music listening, you're gonna enjoy this more. When it comes to just raw detail, resolution, you're gonna think the Maxwell is going to be better, in my opinion. Now, I don't want to make it sound like the Logitech is bad because it's still better than the average gaming headphone. It's just when you're comparing it to like the best on the market, it just doesn't compare, if that makes any sense. So that kind of leads me into talking about imaging, right? So when we're playing games, how can you tell the directionality of stuff? Honestly, both of these are pretty close to me, meaning they're both good, very usable, fine. I wouldn't say they're the best I've ever heard, but they're really good. And when I think about which one I like better for the terms of imaging, it was really close. But the more I use them, the more I'm like, okay, maybe the Maxwell is slightly better. When it comes to really the footsteps, like I said, it's a combination of like imaging, soundstage, like how kind of wide things sound, and then kind of the tuning, right? And that's where like I feel like the soundstage on the Audeze is bigger than the Logitech. But then the Logitech, you can hear the footsteps more, and the directionality of footsteps are about the same. So it's like in some ways easier to tell where footsteps are versus like in the Audeze, it's like the soundstage is wider, so it's easier to tell how far and how close things are because it's bigger, wider, and taller as well. And so it's easier to tell when things are up and down. But then when it comes to like directionality, they're pretty similar. And then when it comes to tuning, you kind of have to pick out the sounds of the footsteps more. So between these two, one is very obvious where the other one you can kind of pick out the noises yourself. So which one do you think is better? I mean, if you're competitive gaming, you only care about footsteps, then I guess, yeah, the Logitech is better in that scenario. Versus in this one, you're just getting a more balanced sound and a more complete sound, I guess. So in conclusion, which one's the best? In my opinion, if it comes to like sound quality and your audiophile, you want the best sound and the most features, I do think the Audeze Maxwell is the better headphone in that sense. Now, if you're the type of gamer who wants to game for long hours and you want something lightweight, something you can wear for 8 hours, I would say the Logitech is better in that sense because I do think the Audeze is a little too heavy to wear over long periods of time versus this headphone is definitely made for that. So for the competitive gamers who are just playing game day in, day out, I think this is definitely it for them. Anyways, if you guys found this video helpful, please like, subscribe down below. Helps my videos out, and I'll see you guys next time.